Hello my friends and welcome back to the Ultimate Challenge. But this is a new campaign, but we're going back to the Ultimate Challenge. So, for those of you who don't know, the Ultimate Challenge was an earlier part in the Grand Campaign that I was doing, where I invited people to do various things, and the more that they did, then the more negative campaign points I was going to pile on myself. And it ended up as minus 17, I think. In the original Ultimate campaign, it was like minus 17, which led to a very, very painful campaign. Now, you guys voted to see a 1944 historical campaign. And so we did the ahistorical. So I had to go back and do 1943, the final turn. I kept the save game to redo my core, or to re-get my core. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do for the campaign theme? And so I thought, well, why not do the Ultimate Challenge again? It's especially appropriate for 1944 because this is when the struggle really starts for the German side. So, I thought I would heap the struggle on myself. So, how are we going to calculate how many negative points to take? Taking them all would be... I don't know if it's impossible, but it would certainly be incredibly difficult. And there are a couple which would actively hurt the quality of the gameplay, as in how enjoyable the gameplay is. So we're going to talk about that as well. There is a lot to talk about at the start of this campaign, so strap yourselves in, because this is going to be a very interesting campaign. So let's start with a quick discussion about the campaign setup. So 1944, obviously, highest difficulty. Combat randomness 10%. Now, combat randomness 10% is something that I normally do because I'm not the hugest fan of massive randomness in a campaign. I think it devalues skill and emphasizes chance, which is not what I want from a strategy game. But the reason why I'm talking about this now, because guys who have watched loads of these campaigns will know I always put it on 10%, is this means I'm forced to take, or not take, untake bad luck. So there is a negative trait called bad luck, which is worth 1 point. And it means that a attack can never have a positive random roll. So if you've got 50% randomness, your attack can be 50% more or 50% less. Bad luck means that it will always be between 0 and 50% less. It will never be positive. Now, depending on how much randomness you have, this trait can be incredibly painful. But if your combat randomness is below 25%, I think it is, you can't choose bad luck as a trait, because if you put combat randomness on 0, I guess the thought was that you would just get a free point to spend on positive traits for no cost. This also means that you can never get the good luck hero, which is another... it's an interesting one. The good luck hero does the opposite. It means that your randomness can never be worse than 0, which is actually extremely powerful. It would even be powerful in a 10% game, because it means that if the prediction says you're going to do 5 damage, you will do 5 damage. You cannot possibly do less than 5 damage. But anyway, it's something I've got to highlight. I always put undo move on infinite and then never use it. It's only like this in case I need to demonstrate something. In previous campaigns, I've basically never used it except to either demonstrate something or to quickly fix a misclick. The game has an issue with you have to click precisely on the model to actually get the unit. And sometimes if you've got like a fighter bobbing around above, like a chunky unit like a tank, it can be really hard to select the fighter and you keep on getting the tank. It can actually lead to you accidentally making moves. I find that supremely annoying. There's no way to fix it. So, as always, you can rely on me to show full discipline with undo and not use it to undo mistakes. Tactical mistakes, strategic mistakes, not misclicks. Misclicks are annoying. And of course I'm going to put limited stock on because I just think it's cool. Even though it will actively hurt me in this campaign. But it is what it is. Alright, here's my core. Launch the historical campaign. Oh, this is going to be messy. This is fun. It's funny that this game we'll use the whole first episode to set the game up, because honestly, this is probably the most important part of the campaign, is the setup. Okay, so here's my positives. Here's my negatives. You will notice, weirdly, there's 2 spaces here, but I don't actually think there's a second one. One that's missing is bad luck. I do not believe that there is actually another negative one. I don't think that there's equal negative and positives. And you will note that nobody expects you to take all the negatives, because the negatives are extremely painful. There is 35 negatives to deal with, 36 if you count bad luck. Remember that we start with 2 points. And you'll note here that if you take all the positives, you'll still have 8 selections remaining. Because nobody expects you to take all the negatives. So, how many negatives am I going to take out of 36? Well, funny you should ask that. So, I ran a poll. Let me just bring the poll up. And I asked you guys how good of a player you thought I was. Now, there is sort of a correct answer to this poll. I have top 3 tournament wins in Magic the Gathering when I was younger, because I used to play that in Liverpool in tournaments, real physical meat space tournaments. And in recent times in things like Field of Glory and Fantasy General and Panzer Corps 2, I was actually placing so high that I had to excuse myself from tournaments because I work for Slytherin and it's a Slytherin tournament. You know, not that I have any special advantage whatsoever or any particular inside knowledge that would help me in a tournament in any way. But nevertheless, you know, people get very, very competitive and very salty about competitive tournaments, which is why I actually more or less avoid them these days, because I'm just too old for that drama. But I had to excuse myself from some tournaments because I was actually placing in the top 3, and you know, bitter people who lost, they make accusations. However untrue they may be, I just excuse myself from those kind of things. So, I'm objectively 4 out of 5 professional level, as in tournament level player. That's how I see myself. I don't necessarily see myself as one of the world's best players, but I just don't see myself as less than a tournament level player, because that would just be an objectively untrue statement to make, and kind of sounds like, you know, those people, and I met a few of them at school when I was a young lad. There were a couple of girls who were like straight A students of the worst variety, like really, really, you know, good at every subject, and they used to constantly bleat about how they were not. I'm so bad. I'm bad at studying, and I'm bad at this, and I'm like, you have a row of A grade qualifications. You're not bad by any measure. Stop pretending like you are. It actually annoys me. It's actually pissing me off. So anyway, that's why I think it's important to have a fair, objective assessment of your own abilities, to not come off like, you know, I don't know, it's like some kind of inverse humble brag. Anyway, I digress. I ran this poll, and you guys voted. 125 of you voted. So I took those numbers and I plugged them in to Excel, and what I did was I assigned a value to each one. So I worked out the percentage multiplier of the vote. This is what I did in the first 3 columns here. And then that 125 underneath is just a sanity check to make sure that it still adds up to 125. Then I assigned a value to each choice. So if you said 5 out of 5, I was going to take 100% of the points. 4 out of 5, 75% of the points. 3 out of 5, 50% of the points. 2 out of 5, 25% of the points. And 1 out of 5, none of the points. And then I multiplied that by the percentage of the vote to get a score. And then I summed and divided the score to get a percentage, which was 77.5%. Which is obviously, so we're going to take 77.5% of the points. There are 36 points, 36 negative points to choose from, and that gives us 27.9. Now, it pleases me because this means that I get 9 negative points to not take, because 27.9 is not a whole number, okay? And I'm just going to round it down. And do you know why I'm going to round it down? Because 2 of you said that I was a below average turn-based strategy gamer. So, thank you. Thank you, you two. Your insults has translated into sparing me a whole point of negative traits to take. And let me tell you, every point is going to be absolutely like precious gold dust. So, thank you very much for sparing me negative. Well, it would have been 28, but instead it's going to be 27. So, thank you very much. Okay, so bad luck. Bad luck is already gone. So that's 1 point. That leaves me with 8. Now, the next one that I'm going to have to take off is arrogant. And it's not because it's bad. It's because of what it will do to the gameplay. To what it will do to the entertainment value of the episodes. So let me explain why. Arrogant means you don't get combat predictions. That's actually not a big deal. I know how to do the calculations. I wrote a guide called The Power of 10, if you guys have watched that Panzer Corps 2 guide, you'll know that I did some mental calculations before attacks happened, and then I looked at the result according to the predictor, and I was never out by more than 1 point. I know how to calculate the attacks. It's not hard. It's just a case of taking the attack value against the defense. If you've got 10 attack and 5 defense, then you're going to do 5 damage times the number of attacks, which can be easily calculated. So, you know, if there's 10 units, then there's 10 attacks. There's 15 units, then there's 15 attacks. If they've got, you know, rapid fire 2x and there's 10, there's 20 attacks. So you just take the attacks and then you multiply by the accuracy, which is actually given on the unit, to get the true number of attacks. And then that gives you your damage. So, for example, if you have that 10 attack, 5 defense, and a unit of 10 strength, then 5 attacks are going to get through and do 5 damage. If it's 50% accuracy, then you're actually going to get half of that, so 2.5 damage. Yeah, it's pretty simple. The problem is, the calculations take more than like 20 odd seconds to do, 20 or 30 seconds to do. I do not want to sit there with every single unit I ever attack with and calculate the attack versus defense times the number of attacks times the accuracy to get the result every single time. It will slow my pace of play down so much. Let me just get rid of this as well. Not that it's necessary right now, but anyway. It will slow down the pace of my attacks so much, it will be very boring to watch me calculate results. And I will need to. I'll have to do it. I need to know what the result of every battle is going to be. So I'm going to have to sit there and calculate it every time. That's just going to be really, really, really annoying. You know, I'm not even sure why this is here, to be honest. I guess some people like it. This is the kind of thing that I would expect to be in the options menu, not as an actual facet of the game. This is an option I would probably expect to find in the options menu. Combat predictions have been around since Panzer General, I think, since the very beginning. And the reason why they're there is not because we just presume that players cannot calculate the what is likely to happen based on the numbers. It's that doing that is really boring. And watching someone do it is probably really boring. So it's got to go for just to keep the pace of the game going forward. So that leaves us with the simplest math, 9 minus 2, so 7. We've got 7 points left. Because this is only 1, and bad luck is only 1. And it's funny that bad luck is only 1, because bad luck is actually, if you've got high randomness on, bad luck is absolutely horrendous. No shadow of a lie. But anyway, it's gone. So, right, 7 points to spend. And let me tell you, some of these are, I mean, all of these are extremely painful. Some are more painful than others. Let's talk about the worst ones. Slow reaction. Friendly units do not shoot back when attacked by the enemy. Mega painful. Honestly, it's got to go. It also makes the AI really aggressive, which also hurts a lot. Like, it really hurts. Ruthless is nasty as well. Chaotic Fire and Inefficient Supply together is really painful. That's 4 gone, that leaves me with 5. Ironically, 5 selections exactly here, so we can use that. Actually fits perfectly, which is hilarious. Delayed reinforcements, cannot use replacements in the middle of battle. Extremely painful. I think that's got to go. That leaves me with 3 selections. Green Army is gonna really hurt. I don't know if I can get rid of it. Poor Maintenance is another one that really hurts. Chaotic Fire and Inefficient Supply are both, and you know the weather is going to be bad for a lot of this. These together are extremely painful. It's a choice here because Chaotic Fire mostly causes you to run out of ammunition. Inefficient Supply mostly causes you to run out of fuel. Because Inefficient Supply gives you half supply. But I think you always get 4 fuel, no matter what. And you get 2 or 3 ammo at least. But when you're moving around in snow and fuel costs are magnified, you find yourself running out of fuel, especially for scouts, for wheeled units. Whereas Chaotic Fire doubles the ammunition cost of every attack. Obviously, it drains your ammo very quickly. You can't have both. You'll run out of fuel and ammo, and you'll just be dead in the water. So one of them, at least one of them, has got to go. I've not played the historical campaign, so I'm not entirely sure which is going to benefit me more. I can't take them both, I just don't have enough points. I think. Oh, poor ground control's gonna hurt me. Fear of Unknown is really gonna hurt me. And of course, no overstrength is gonna hurt me as well. I wonder if that applies straight away, or whether my units from the previous part of the game that were overstrengthed will stay that way. That is an interesting thing to think about, actually. Let's take that off. Let's take Inefficient Supply off, I'll deal with Chaotic Fire. At least I'll get full ammo and full fuel every turn. Oh, poor Maintenance. This is also gonna hurt. Very, very, very true of what happened in the war, though. Okay, so you'll note here that we are stuck with denied Air Force. There was no escaping that. Denied artillery, there was no escaping that either. Green army, it's going to hurt. Because it's going to eat into the experience of my units. But I do have some field medics and repair heroes that will help me keep my units topped up and avoid having to reinforce them with elite replacements. Delayed reinforcements is just mega painful though, so that had to go. Fear of unknown. Maximum 1 hero per unit, that's -2. Now, interestingly, that is slightly offset by force concentration, 1 extra hero to every unit. So this should result in me being able to put 2 heroes per unit. I do have a lot of heroes, though. So taking this off may be a big win for me. Poor maintenance, though, is also hugely painful. Oh man. Poor ground control is going to hurt like crazy as well. Never accepts surrender. This also really hurts. It means that the surrender type setups won't work. Ah man, the more you look at it, the more you realize how much it hurts you. Of course, with force dispersion on, it's very hard to make a surrender machine. I'm gonna have to make you need a unit with overwhelming attack and something like envelopment. Normally you would combine that with something like no retaliation to make sure you don't take damage back. That's just not possible with 2 heroes. But of course, if Ruthless is on, then they're not going to surrender anyway, so... Oh man, they both hurt. They both really hurt, and poor maintenance is also really painful. Fear of unknown is super painful as well. Okay, I'm gonna make some decisions here. Okay, Ruthless has got to go. I want to have the option to force people to surrender. I'll have to do it with just 2 heroes instead of a full set, but it'll have to do. Thinking about it, units that I carried over from the previous campaign have probably got more heroes set, and I might be able to leave them as is. So that will be interesting. Aircraft don't work well with Fear of Unknown on. But that said, I've got denied Air Force, and I think I had that last time too. So my Air Force is probably in a right state. It's a choice between Chaotic Fire and Fear of Unknown. It's a hard choice. Chaotic Fire... particularly will hurt my anti-aircraft divisions, as they will burn out of ammunition fast. Artillery will be hurt. Tanks and infantry will be fine. Well, tank overruns with tanks will be badly affected. Let's take off Chaotic Fire. I can work around Fear of Unknown. I just have to take more scouting. More scout elements. Okay. That's it. That's 9 points. Let's just double check it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and bad luck, 9. So, we're dealing with 2 heroes per unit, with the exception of the ones that are already set up in my core. I haven't touched the core from the previous campaign, so it's exactly how it was. So I've not set it up to help me here. It's how it was in the previous one, which was... I think the 1943 campaign was no tanks. So I think my tanks are probably not set up at all. Which is going to hurt. Or at least be something I have to think about. Poor ground control means defending my artillery, anti-aircraft guns, etc. is going to be a task. Trench slog, of course, extremely annoying. Slow modernization, I can work around that, it's not a problem. Poor maintenance could be anything from a huge problem to no problem, depending on how severely we get impacted by it. It's pure RNG, which is my least favourite kind of thing to deal with. Yeah, limited replacements is obviously going to impact. It's going to impact whether I reinforce or not, and how often. Medical and repair heroes are going to be critical to mitigating this. Retrograde is somewhat offset by industry connections, but we have limited stock, so it's still gonna hurt a lot. Like it's gonna hurt a lot because of limited stock. Industry connections, of course, would get you a full usable unit forever, 1 per mission, without limited stock. But with limited stock, it gets you 1 copy of a unit that can wear out very quickly. And of course, retrograde is going to prevent you from getting whole walls of extra units for ages. So, yeah, inept logistics, super painful. 10% less slots really bites. No overstrength really bites. Here we are. These two together, I think, are almost impossible to deal with in 1944, when the weather is bad all the time. So they had to go. I had to take Ruthless off because I want to be able to use my surrender heroes. I think they're going to be very powerful in the campaign ahead. Slow reaction. Slow reaction and delayed reinforcements are just exceedingly painful. As you know, I think basically based a whole campaign around just this. It's so painful. it's potentially objectively the worst one on this list. Units that don't fight back at all. That definitely hurts. And it makes the AI very aggressive, so it will just pump damage into you every turn. Right. We have all the positives to help us out. How helpful they're going to be remains to be seen. I would never normally take all of this. Auxiliary force might be very powerful, actually. can spam down some junk units and use them as body blockers. Of course, they can't be overstrengthed, so how useful they're going to be remains a question. Man, we've got stuff that I would never take here because it's just not good. Battle Academy. What a joke of a trait that is. I guess it'll offset Green Army a little bit. Yeah, aggressive deployment and meticulous planning is gonna allow me to do some pretty aggressive stuff with artillery and anti-aircraft guns, so that's nice. I'm gonna have to deploy a lot of infantry and tanks to offset inept logistics. Yeah, extra prestige, who cares at this point? Deep Recon could be interesting since I have to deal with fear of unknown. We got the Power 4 here, but we've got poor ground control, so good luck. Good luck. Good luck using the Power 4 with poor ground control on. To just walk straight out of any encirclement you try and make, they just walk straight out of it. So yeah. Poor ground control really really puts the clamp on trying to do any Power 4 stuff. For sure. As they can just walk. They can just any path that exists, they can just walk straight out and attack you while they're doing it. So okay. We are facing a crisis on the Eastern Front, we really are. This is gonna be a crisis, to say the least. Soviet forces may have us encircled, but we don't know for certain. Make contact with 11th Corps. Make contact with Kaniv defenders. Make contact with Southern Flank defenders. Wagner must survive. You've requisitioned a custom command tank for our use. It's the hull of a Panther with the turret of a Panzer IV. It will keep us protected on the field. I wouldn't try and engage the enemy directly, as the gun is inoperable. We had to remove it to fit all our communications equipment inside the vehicle. The barrel is only there to intimidate Russians. Put most of our forces into reserve as fuel is desperately low. So a handful of forces is all we'll have to work with. And the blizzard is currently raging, will render our aircraft completely inoperable. Great, because I've got denied air force, so that's good. Highly recommend a slow and cautious advance, our swiftest recon units scouting the way. First stop should be to make contact with 11th Corps. We shall have to hope that General Sturman has had better luck than us in keeping in contact with anyone outside of the Korsun pocket. Also check up on the forces assigned to garrison Kaniv, or Kanev, maybe. Last set of orders we did receive, High Command has insisted the city be held. High Command wants it to serve as a base for launching a future offensive to force the Russians to cross back over the Dnieper, especially in the region of Kiev. In the last communication we were also warned that a new threat was approaching our position from the south. We had better check the condition of the forces protecting the southern flank to make sure they are still holding on. These forces may or may not be from 42 Corps? Who knows? Weird. If it was Roman numerals, it should be like... What is it for 50? Is it D or V or R? I can't remember. It'd be like R minus X 2 or something. XR2 or something like that in Roman numerals. I can't remember what the letter for 50 is, but anyway. But if they aren't, we should also be on the lookout for that missing core. Thousands of our fellow soldiers are somewhere out there in this blizzard. We must find and save anyone we can for the campaign ahead. Alright. Cheap replacements. First strike. Nice. 0 slots. Yes! Yes! Ah, great. I got something nice. Something to offset minus 10% slots. Okay, my overstrength and heroes are in place from the previous campaign. What was the previous campaign? Because they actually all look set up quite nicely. Right. I can keep them like that. I need to just not touch them. Hit and run. Overwhelming attack envelopment. Okay. I had surrender anti-tanks. And a surrender recon car. Am I allowed to... Oh, this one's got heroes on it. Not very good ones, but it does. Okay. Man, we're going to be leaning very heavily on the core for this campaign, I think. Fortunately for me, I left a lot of my stuff overstrengthed. And it looks like I can still use it that way, so that's great. But it does... that doesn't mean that I'm going to... I've circumvented the restriction. Because... new units are going to suffer. Let's move these all to the reserve. I'm not going to be able to change them. Let's just experiment here. If I was to change this bridging unit to something else, let's say regular infantry. I can't touch the overstrength. But I can upgrade. So what would happen? Because this is +2 overstrength. Let's experiment with something I don't care about, like this bomber. So if I was to upgrade this overstrength bomber to something else, would it maintain its overstrength? Yes, it would. Okay. Alright. Interesting. So I can upgrade and the overstrength will stick around. There might be circumstances where the overstrength doesn't stick around, like infantry blobs are not all the same. The Osttruppen comes in a stack of 20 when you buy it by default. Interestingly, if you buy an Osttruppen at overstrength 20 and then you convert it to a different unit, will it still be overstrength 20? These are the questions that piling negatives puts in your head. Now, I also have limited upgrades and limited conversions, so I can't there's some cost to doing that. I don't think that there's anything new at this time. Okay, there's like a new flame tank. 38T Flampanzen. Stug 4. Some artillery. Oh! Oh. The traits from the previous campaign carry over for the first mission. I forgot about this. Certain traits from the previous campaign carry over. So, we've received a round of artillery units here, which we shouldn't get because we've got denied artillery. But in the last campaign, I obviously did not have denied artillery. So I've gotten them. It's a bit weird, but some unit-related traits carry over from the previous campaign, but only for the first mission. So I don't get my industry connections, because I didn't have that on the last campaign, I guess. I'm not quite sure what the last what 1943 was. What was the 1943 campaign? My save games might reveal what it was. Nope, I just put 1943 end of episode. Very unhelpful. Okay. Well, I've got 2 upgrades left. I'm going to have to decide which units I'm taking and all that kind of thing. But this episode's gone on actually for a huge amount of time already. So I'm going to say that that's it for now. That's the setup. And that next time we will do the deployment, and I don't know if there's really enough to think about in deployment for it to be a separate episode, and I might just get stuck into the mission. We'll see. But there is a lot. There's a lot to think about, and now that the game is set up and I understand the rules, I need to go away and actually think about how I'm going to deploy, how I'm going to approach this, how all this punishment interacts. There's a lot to think about here. But fortunately for me, my core looks pretty solid from the previous campaign. As long as I don't touch it. As long as I leave things as they are. But nevertheless, I'm going to get new heroes, I'm going to get new units. Changes are going to have to be made. So I'm not going to dodge the no overstrength problem entirely. And certainly the flexibility that I had is going to be gone. I do have some units at various overstrength levels, so man, it's going to be interesting figuring out how to circumvent all the problems I've heaped on myself. But for now, that is it. So, I hope you guys enjoy the start of this new campaign, and I will see you guys next time.